This week, I'm delighted to say we're joined by the Aberdeen legend, former Scotland international and Newcastle and Motherwell player, Neil Simpson. Neil, how are you?
I'm good, Scott. Yourself?
I'm good. I believe you've obviously retired from football, but I see you're as busy as ever. You've been writing your biography, which is
when I left Aberdeen a year and a half ago to join Grand Tubulars, my work-life balance is a lot better now, and I decided through conversations with Neil Drysdale, who was the author, to go ahead and write my autobiography. And I'm absolutely delighted how it's turned out. And Neil brought it to life, if I'm being honest, through numerous meetings. We always met at the Mannifield Cricket Club, and what the beauty of knowing like 3 and 4 weeks ahead, I could do a bit of research, so we knew what chapter we were discussing prior to that, and it gave me an opportunity to research, speak to some of my closest relations, find out. Took a load of notes, and then obviously we would go through that, and Neil obviously would ask me a number of questions as well.
So we've got the book cover there on the screen. It's obviously called Simmy, Neil Simpson, Tackling Life with Aberdeen and Fergie, as you say, with Neil Drysdale, by Pitch Publishing, and available all good bookshops.
Yeah, I mean, it got released yesterday, and it's been flying up the Amazon charts, which I'm delighted about. But I also, through a guy called Jeff Riley in Imagica, he developed a website for me. So we've had that up and running about 2 months, taking pre-orders. So neilsimpson8.com, you can get signed and dedicated copies as well. So, as I said, that's been going really well. And the official launch of the book is this Thursday at Pittodrie Stadium. That was the only place I really wanted to do that, to be honest.
Good. And I mean, obviously you've got some career, you've obviously got some story to tell, sort of thing, but was it quite uplifting just putting it all together?
Yeah, I mean, especially the first 2 chapters. So I knew it was going to be from birth. It's like it isn't just football. It's really my life story. Why I was born in London. There's quite a mystery to that. Growing up in rural Cluny and Newmarket, and my childhood, and the great friends that I had at primary and secondary school. Just going through these parts, and obviously my close family, my granny and my mum and granddad, and when you were actually discussing them, and then when I saw it on print, it was quite emotional. Just reading the first couple of chapters, especially, people who have been a big part of my life.
You've obviously done some early press for it. It's made a few headlines already.
Yeah.
I mean, you've not been afraid of a tackle throughout your career, but the one that probably has made a lot of headlines has been the Ian Durrant one.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I've addressed that in the book.
Yeah, I've addressed it. I mean, it's a 6,000 word chapter. I feel I've been very honest, from the actual incident, and the aftermath and beyond, really. And that, there's been quite a number of things that I've highlighted in the book which happened, just threats to my family and things like that. But on the whole, I think I've been very, very honest about it. It's the first time I've spoken about it, in great detail ever. So it's a chapter where I've went right into the issues regarding the tackle.
I mean, in fairness to you, I mean, you said, I mean, it was a bad accident, and if you could rewind, and to see things differently.
Yeah. I mean, I've said I was sorry for the outcome, and if you could wind the clock, then definitely I wish it didn't happen. And but I think if you could look at my career, and a lot of the supporters from other clubs would be baffled or astounded that I'd never been sent off in my whole career. I'm not even the boys' club or anything. I'm not saying I never got booked, but in terms of my career, I never got sent off once. And I think people around that time involved in football would definitely, if I were describing myself, would be hard but fair. And in fact, Paul McStay had, the Shoot magazine used to have like your car, your own, married, how many children, your favourite food. Yeah, it was a whole detailed thing. It was probably a Ford Escort or something then. But anyway, he had asked, your most difficult opponent, and he said Neil Simpson, hard but fair. And I think that would probably sum up as me as a player throughout my career. I never shirked a tackle. But again, I always thought it was a hard but fair player.
Because going back to that day, you see in the book as well that Mark Walters actually caught you with a really bad tackle early in the game. It was just part of
the tackle. See, like the Rangers games even the reserve games. I remember when I just joined Aberdeen, and like my first reserve game, it was at Ibrox. I'm up against, and I genuinely can't remember who it was, but my uncle who stays in Bishopbriggs used to go to all my games. My uncle and auntie, and out of nowhere, I just got flattened by a punch. Just what? And I've seen, in the tunnel, I've seen fights. I remember a mass brawl at Pittodrie. I've seen sendings off. I've seen crowds coming onto the pitch at Ibrox. I think, what game? Hugh Burns and Craig McPherson got sent off. That was a scary game. When the crowd started coming on the pitch, they were down to 9 men in the first half. I actually saw Hugh Burns. My company have got the Trumpet and Arsenal as part of the corporate, and I just came out of the building and I hear Simmy, and I'm looking, and of course he looks at a lot different. So do I, to be fair. And right away I just knew the face. So Hugh was up, with his work, up for an outing there. So there was it was a powder keg fixture, probably every game we played.
So a lot of people look at it, and some people say, "Well, your tackle probably made things a lot worse with relations," but relations between the teams had been far worse before that. You go back to the Willie Johnson challenge on John McMaster, which you cover in the book as well. That was far worse.
Oh.
And he said in his book that there was intent. He actually was looking for Willie Miller, wasn't he, rather than
John McMaster? Yeah, once he got Willie. No, as I said, I think every game, there were brilliant games to play in. The atmosphere. I remember when Jock Wallace, actually, his first game back, he came to Pittodrie, and the atmosphere, I think the Rangers end, obviously it was always sold out, but there was loads of Rangers supporters, and the atmosphere was unbelievable. But we soon dampened that. I think I scored after 4 minutes, and I can't remember who else. We were 2-0 up within 10 minutes or something. So, I think they were always brilliant fixtures to play in, but a real powder keg, and, incidents could happen at any time.
Was that ramped up, Neil, in the 80s under Sir Alex, because Aberdeen and Dundee United had emerged, the new firm, as probably the dominant teams in that time?
I would say so. I think obviously Rangers and Celtic were always a dominant factor, and like Aberdeen, and were getting a cup now and again, like 1970 and 1976 with the League Cup, but they were a dominant factor. But when Sir Alex and Fergie took over, he created and demanded a winning mentality, where you were going to Ibrox and Celtic, and you always said, if you want to win any trophies, you've got to go to Glasgow and win. So obviously from Aberdeen, winning now and again, we really dominated during that period. I would say 1980 to 86, and obviously Celtic, and personally I thought they were able to handle it a little bit better. They were really as bad as Rangers during that time, but I think especially some of the players never really handled us being the dominant factor, and the West Coast media as well, I would say. Definitely I mean, Fergie used to say all the time, you've had a big game. That Alec Cameron and all his cronies will have to come up to Aberdeen now. They'll hate coming up to Aberdeen because we'll have to win the league against a big game against Dundee United when they would prefer to go and watch a Celtic and Rangers game. So he always, I mean, he motivated the players through, like the media and things that would be said. Aberdeen are struggling, or and they would be right up in the notice board. Look at body press. Look at they're saying, you're not going to let them dictate what we're going to do. I mean, he was a master of psychology, Fergie. He really was unbelievable. And, as a young player coming in, you just bought it. I didn't know any different in terms of how you handle yourself. And, it was just that there was a demand put on you that you had to stand up for yourself. And especially in the heat of these battles, and try and win the match. And thankfully, a lot of the time we were the dominant team during that period.
Neil, going back to the Ian Durrant one, obviously it's had an impact on Ian Durrant's career, but people, I mean, it's really had an impact in your career as well, hasn't it? And yourself following that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a 5-year period where, from October 88 till when I was at Motherwell in 1993. So that whole period, there was, I mean, it was every Rangers game, there was always a headline. I mean, like the players used to say, I wonder what day it'll be in this week. Prior to the Rangers game, because everybody knew it was going to happen. And then once the court proceedings started, then, I mean, it just becomes so intense, because I would be getting my lawyer, Nick Hosey, would be receiving information from Ian's solicitors, but within like 1 or 2 days it was printed all over the papers. So somebody was feeding that information. It was definitely, it was a tool to unsettle. Well, obviously I was going to be unsettled, but Aberdeen as a club as well, who again dominate. It was a great opportunity to unsettle Aberdeen, I felt.
I mean, in terms of, I've seen you. I mean, obviously you've got some quotes in there that at times you felt like a pariah, and maybe at the time maybe even how did out at Scotland. Was it that bad? Was it really had an impact?
Look, you see, as years pass, I've become resilient to it, because you see it all the time. I'm obviously in social media, and there's a few nasty comments coming in now and again, but you just live with it. And to be honest, it's water off a duck's back. I've felt that for a number of years, because I feel comfortable in my surroundings up in Aberdeen, northeast of Scotland. I've no hassle whatsoever. In fact, when I was at Motherwell and stayed in Westwood, just beside Cumbernauld, we used to go into Glasgow all the time, and there was one shout, I think. Apart from that, I've actually had no hassle whatsoever. To be honest, I don't think any would really recognise me now, unless I've got the Aberdeen kit on, walking down Sauchiehall Street, and I don't think I'm going to be doing that. The Aberdeen trackie on, that would be a bit dodgy, I think.
Retro.
No, I mean, see, prior to that, Scott, I was really struggling with injuries prior to that. 87, I hardly played. In fact, I came back, I think I played the last 12 games, and from a season of absolute disaster at injury problems, I actually played for Scotland against England at Hampden. So, I got a real boost from that. And then 86, well, really I was involved in a head-on crash. And see that I hurt my neck, and I was in one of these, the neck brace things that you get. For about 10 days or something. But then after in January, I just come right back into it. No problem at all. But I started getting this, really sore pain going down back my leg. And I must have played for about 8 weeks with it, 8 games. In fact, my last game was Gothenburg in the quarterfinal of the European Cup at Pittodrie. And I had to say, I don't think I can play through this. It was really, really sore. So if I was to analyse that, I think I got a right dunk in the car crash in terms of my back. And it was, I mean, I think that was sciatica I had. The pain was so bad. And this is quite fun. Brian Robson was injured, but he'd done his hamstring prior to that. And he was doing this rehab program. So I was doing the Brian Robson rehab program for my hamstring. Whether it was the right thing or whatever. Oh, you better do that exercise. So I was on that program, and I played a reserve game before the Scottish Cup final in '86. Scored 2 goals, and about into the second half, I tweaked my groin, and that was Fergie says you'll need to play another game Tuesday against Hibs, and there was no way I could play. I was really sore. But then on the Wednesday, or was it the Thursday? Or the press were up to Aberdeen on the Thursday before the Scottish Cup final against Hearts. And he says, look, nobody will know you're injured. You're going to be out for the final. Go and be a side player in the boxes. So, I mean, I was just shuffling along. I could hardly blooming move being a side player. I don't get kidded ND on, to be honest, if any of the press were watching that. So, I mean, from then on, I really was getting a lot of the summer '86. Archie actually came back to be the joint manager with Fergie, and had a brilliant pre-season. But first game of the season, actually, my studs caught on the ground at Tannadice, and I twisted. It wasn't in my Achilles, but the tendon right alongside that, and I was hit to rest it for about 8 weeks, and then they decided that I needed an operation. So, and then Ian Porterfield then joined as manager. I mean, I took ages to come back from that again. And again, I managed to play the last round of fixtures and ended up playing for Scotland against England at Wembley. I mean, it was just incredible, to have 2 really bad seats. So Alex Smith took over from Ian Porterfield. And to be fair, Alex Smith says, come on, we need to get you back really, really fit. So I had an amazing pre-season. Jockey was a hard taskmaster, just like Archie. And I was actually doing really well in that period, 1988. I was hardly injured at the start of the season. And then obviously, as the season after the incident in October, in the cup final, I actually tweaked my groin as well. Because we played the cup final after that, and the League Cup final at Hampden 2 weeks after that. Yeah. So I agree. You could say that it affected me, which it did. But my body was telling me I wasn't. It just carried on. But at Newcastle, even had a number of injuries there. And then Motherwell, I thought I played about 35 games, I think. Scored against Airdrie. You need to tell Tam.
That was a good one.
Tam Cowan. In fact, it was Davy Cooper penalty. He missed it, saved, and I went and got the rebound. So I thought I'd been a hero at Motherwell for that.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah.
So, but obviously, I mean, in the book, you've a life with Aberdeen and Sir Alex. I mean, it's what's it now? It's Gothenburg. This has been
yesterday was the 11th of May.
Yeah. So was that the greatest moment as part of in your time at Aberdeen?
It was just, I mean, to win a European trophy was just, and I think what made it special as well, it wasn't like a Eastern European team. It was actually Real Madrid that you'd beat in the final.
Mm-hmm.
And and in the quarterfinal you beat Bayern Munich as well. I mean, it is incredible when you think of it. And one of the guys, and we've got a Gothenburg WhatsApp group. I actually met a few of them yesterday because we were doing some signing thing yesterday at Pittodrie. So Stuart Kennedy, John Master, Wally Miller, Ian Angus was up as well, Dougie Bell, myself, Jim, Leighton, and Johnny Hewitt, Wally Miller. And then I think the Anglos are going to do a similar down the road, just signing a few shirts and things. But one of the guys sent the UEFA rankings at that time. And Aberdeen, when we beat Hamburg in the Super Cup final, In January or February, I think the rankings came out, and Aberdeen were the best team in Europe. I mean that isn't. It really is incredible. That could have happened. And so when you tell the young kids now, no, you couldn't have beaten Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. I mean, they're unbelievable, these teams now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we had some quality. I mean, we had a really quality group of players. And obviously you've got Fergie as your manager who, as I said before, demanded a standard, creating an environment where winning was just the be-all and end-all. You had to win.
Aye.
And that is in training. But the group of players like Sir Stuart Kennedy, Willie Miller, Alec McLeish, even wee Gordon, it was like the standards in training were so high. Sometimes training was harder. Like your opposite games than the actual game on a Saturday, because the quality opposition you're playing against each other, even like a Dougie Bell, Neil Cooper, Ian Angus, myself, John McMaster would play in midfield and that. I mean, it's quality players. And then when you look at the international players at the time as well, I mean, it was littered with players who had played for Scotland, played for their country. And you're not going to get to that level if you're not a good player.
Aye. No, mate, that was a brilliant team, and that season. I mean, what do you remember from? You obviously mentioned Bayern Munich. You beat Sion quite easily, and you scored in the semi-final as well, didn't you?
I scored against Sion in the prelim round because Aberdeen were deemed that they didn't have the rankings. We were right down the list. So we had to play Sion in a prelim round before we go into the first round. But it was actually, it was a really early season. And I remember at Pittodrie, it was a beautiful evening. And like Pittodrie at the start of the season, it was lush. Really, really nice. But we absolutely battered. We scored some amazing goals. I scored a chip from outside of the box. A delicate chip. That wasn't like my goals normally. And then we won 7-0 at home and 4-1 away. I mean, it was just, it got us off to a great start, at the start of the season.
The big one and the early one, was the Bayern one, right? You talk about that one, it's the noise at that game and the atmosphere was probably as good as you've heard at Pittodrie.
It was amazing, but also the away leg where we drew 0-0. I think that's probably the best away fixture at Aberdeen ever played when I was playing.
And the only thing you lost that night was Willie's teeth.
Oh, that's right, Carol Hayden's Rummenigge. He decided to have an overhead kick, and he couldn't find it in the grass. You would have thought you would have found it in the Olympic Stadium. The grass would just be like a bowling. It's like a bowling green. So. We were all cock a hoop. We've drawn with Bayern. What a chance we've got. But Fergie was a wee bit concerned because you had away goals then. So it could have been it was an issue when they scored first. But we played really well. I equalised just before half time. And then they scored again in the second half to make it 2-1. So you're down and out. But Fergie, in typical fashion, he was a master at changing formations, changing the personnel, making substitutes. And to be fair, he took me off and put John Hewitt on. And he took Stuart Kennedy off, and Stuart had such a personality. He just, even though we won, was still shaking his head that he got taken off. So you're 2-1 down with 15 minutes to go, and you're out of the cup. And John Hewitt, Alec McLeish scores first, and then within a minute we've scored again, John Hewitt. So you can't deny it was a fantastic substitution, even though I was a bit peeved at the time. But it was. See, when that goal, it was like 2 goals in rapid, and the crowd were still celebrating when they scored again, and the echo was still going when when we got the third goal, the second one in quick fire. But then when the final whistle went, it was just what a place. It was really unbelievable. The
Is that
crowd were just quality.
the best atmosphere you've seen at
Yeah,
Badori?
the best atmosphere.
Aye.
Best atmosphere as a player, but actually I was a supporter at the Aberdeen beat Copenhagen
Right,
in the
okay.
UEFA Cup. I number 8 of 2000 and
Calderwood.
could be 2007 or something, maybe.
Aye.
I thought that was when Jamie Smith scored like a volley and that. As a supporter, I thought it was amazing. But being on the pitch and being involved at Bayern Munich game was just an incredible night. And the supporters still speak about it yet.
What were the Bayern Munich players like when they left? Were they stunned, crestfallen?
They thought, well, I mean, Gordon Strachan and John McMaster did this guy's free kick. So they both go to, so they get and take the free kick, and then they both sort of miss it. So, it's me, it's you. And then Gordon takes a quick free kick. And of course, the Bayern Munich players are just sort of relaxing, waiting for the free kick to be taken. Next minute, Alex McLeish nips in and gets a great header. And they, to this day, think it was just luck that we managed that. But it definitely, that split second, gave everybody a chance just to get into different areas. So it was a well rehearsed and free kick.
So you then score in the semi-final. I mean, the first leg, it was pretty much over after the first leg, the semi-final, wasn't it?
Yeah, again, we were 2-0 up after 5 minutes. Dougie Bell was outstanding that evening, and he went for a dribble and had a cross-crumb shot. It went right to the back post, and Eric just put it in. That was after about 2 minutes. And then I scored after 5 minutes, which, it is my favourite goal, I must admit. And I've got a photograph after I've scored with me celebrating, and you can see my arm in the air, but all the South Stand in the background and everybody jumping out. I just love that photo. And I mean, I managed to beat three or four players, like a wee slalom. And it was almost like I was right at the edge of the box with the goal right in front of me after I took my next touch. And it wasn't a great shot, but it was a decent amount of power, which the goalkeeper couldn't hold. So I was delighted with that one.
Good. And obviously it was a convincing, I mean, over the two legs, you did well to get through that.
Yeah, 5-1 the first leg, and the only time we got beat during that whole cup run was 1-0 against Watershire over there. But we were pretty comfortable, with it, even in that game.
Yeah.
We managed it well.
I mean, in terms of the Real Madrid one, I remember there's all the stories about Archie and his spying trips before it and different things. But you had a slightly different build-up, didn't you? Because you had been floored by a virus, and you were taking out the domestic firing line, so I read.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually the Watershire game. The return leg. After the game, the guys went for a meal, but I just felt a bit fluey, went to my bed. I played the next game, and it was still sort of hanging over me when we played Dundee at Dens. And it was a warm day, and it was just one of them. I was just knackered. I just couldn't get out the bit. My touch was bad. I was very sluggish. And we won the game as we normally did at Dundee. I think it was 2 or 3-0. But Ferguson, well done, one going, Sammy, what about you? He says, I've seen a slug move faster than you. And I says, I was just knackered. Anyway, after I'm saying, why the hell did I say that? Because he'll get stuff in his head. You might think, whoa, better see how he is. But anyway, Monday morning I came into Pataudry. Simpson, come at my office. And I'm going, oh no. First thing, what have I done? And then he goes, oh, I thought you looked a bit tired. I says, I was going back, I had a virus against Watershire. I hadn't been feeling too great, blah, blah, blah. And out of nowhere, he says, you're going to be playing in the European Cup Winners' Cup final, and you're going to do absolutely nothing for, I think it was about 10 days. So we played Hibs and we played Kilmarnock, and I took no part in the training or the games. In fact, the Hibs game, I remember listening to it in the radio in my house, and I was getting massages and, just out for a walk, watching the boys training. I absolutely, they're going, are you okay? I said, yeah. I didn't know what to say, anything. You know, I just said, no, I'm resting. And to be fair, I absolutely felt amazing. See that, brilliant man management. And I felt so good. We trained, my first time I trained was on the Sunday before the Cup Winners' Cup final. We trained on Pataudry, and then we met. I think, in fact, we trained in the Monday morning, and then just a light session, and then we head to the airport, and we went over to Gothenburg on the Monday, which was early for a European trip because normally we went the day before. But it was good just to acclimatise ourselves. Monday was really just a travelling day. And then Tuesday we got to train in the Ulevi Stadium, which was just, you're driving the game in an empty stadium at the time. And when we finished the session, Real Madrid players were waiting, and Ferguson, just wait a minute, let them wait a little minute. But anyway, Jock Stein was on the trip, for his experience. I mean, what a great man he was, amazing coach. But just the figure, he had such an aura about him. But anyway, he said to Fergie, get one of the best whiskies you can. And when you see Di Stefano, who was the Real Madrid manager, personally hand over the whiskey and say, good luck on the night. And he'll think, oh, this Aberdeen team are just here just to make up the numbers because they're playing Real Madrid. Just little psychological things, which, whether it worked or not, is just amazing.
What do you remember about the game and that, and what's the feeling going in there? I mean, you were up against like Yoli Stelica and that, the top players, but you're obviously beating some of the top teams along the way. So you must have been in there full of confidence that you could do it again.
Yeah, I mean, myself and Neil Cooper, I think we benefited a lot of the players, especially the younger ones, myself, Neil Cooper, John Hugh, Eric Black. We all played in Scotland youth teams. And you were up against some top quality. I mean, I played against Ruud Gullit. I played against Matthias. In fact, the Scotland team on 18s that I was involved in, we played Germany, and I think it was Ludwigshafen was the name of the place. There was 40,000 at the game because the school children in the area got the day off to go to the match, and we beat Germany 2-0, and I was up against Matthias. I played against Gullit. There was top players you were playing, and you didn't feel any different. In fact, you'd actually dominated them at times. And I think the experience that you gain playing these European, even at the youth level and under 21s especially, I had a great experience playing for Scotland under 21 when we beat Italy over in Italy, and you Baresi, Bergomi. In fact, it was 1-0 over there. Frank McAvenny scored the winning goal. And then in the return leg, it was 0-0. And Jim Leighton was the overage goalkeeper because you could have two overage players then. And Jim was amazing. But the Italian team, wall to wall. I think there was 6 players that actually went on to play for Italy, and 3 of them won the World Cup. So they were unbelievable, Bergomi and Baresi. And they lost their discipline. In fact, the 2 players got sent off for tackles on me. So that's a bit of a surprise. So I just think the experience that we all built up playing in these, even though it was, under 18 or 21s, you were again going away, what was it like to stay in the hotel, the food, the training, the different, sometimes it was cold, sometimes it was roasting. I think, the experience that all the players at Aberdeen had, and you obviously had Miller, McLeish, Strachan, and Leighton, who were playing in World Cup. So, we really didn't fear anyone. And you're right, we played Archie, gave the dossier when went and watched all the games beforehand. The European part of it was in Eastern Europe, where he just couldn't get in there at all. But you'd your dossier, you knew who you were playing against, your strengths and their weaknesses. And me and Neil Cooper, Tati, we knew we were playing against Gallego and Stelica. That was their 2 central midfield players. And obviously, just as a normal game, getting about them, don't give them time in the ball. And, you know, in the whole, apart from a small period in the game once they equalised, you know, I think Marcel and Neil did really well against that two internationals.
What's the feeling like when that winning goal from John Hewitt goes in, and then
Well, I was about
final
20 yards behind, so I could see him. I could see the ball just going. The keeper missing it and him just, you know, heading it in. It was just an incredible feeling. You know, you watch it time and time again when you see it was a great build up with Peter Weir and Mark McGee, and John as he did in so many games. You know, just, you know, was like a super sub, but John contributed so many goals for Aberdeen, and not just as a sub, but when he started, you know, against Hearts in the '86 Cup final, I think, you know, he scored the opening goal there. So, you know, him and Eric were two quality strikers. So, you know, whoever played was going to do well alongside Mark McGee. But it was a brilliant feeling. But there was still, I should have actually scored. The ball broke to me at the edge of the box. Still this day, I wish I'd scored. I wish I'd managed to strike the ball better, but it just went past the post. And then towards the end of the game, they had a free kick at the edge of the box, and that was like, oh, that was scary. I was at the end of the wall, and Peter Weir was next to me, and you could hear him saying, "Please, God, please don't let him score." And I actually jumped up, and the ball just grazed my leg as it went flying past. And you think, oh, this is going in, and it must have just grazed the post past Jim Leighton. And you knew then it was like, I think Jim more or less took the goal kicker, and the referee blew for the end of the game, which again was amazing scenes.
Have you had a feeling like that in football? Was that the ultimate?
It really was that, yeah. I mean, the first cup final when we beat Rangers in 1982, when Ty scored the fourth goal, you know, to win your first medal. Because I supported Aberdeen as a kid. You know, when they won the 1970 Scottish Cup final, and you see them, you know, the pictures and the video of them going through the streets, and, you know, your heroes, Joe Harper and Davy Robb and Martin Buck and Bobby Clark, all these sort of guys. You know, you do dream that one day you could be a footballer. That's, I suppose, every kid does that, and it was definitely my dream and my ambition to one day play for Aberdeen. But never did I ever think I would be playing and playing in European finals and playing and winning, you know, so many trophies with the club.
What like were the celebrations? And I take it Newmarket was empty, was it?
No, I'm sure the Beaky's Nuke and the hotel would have been rammed to the gunnels after that. No, I mean, the celebrations were amazing. We went back to the Farzat Hotel. So for the guys for the Northeast, all know the tutor name. Farzat. Yeah. And it was great. And I think it was about 4 or 5 o'clock. Everybody got to their beds. In fact, I think Mark McGee and Gordon Strachan were in the swimming pool at that time as well. Now, it was good, but the celebrations, you know, when we got back to the city, I've never seen so many people in Union Street when we were on the open top bus. In fact, there was people at the airport, and there was a steady stream of people lining the street from the airport, you know, along Bucksburn, up Anderson Drive. And I remember the fire engines were out at the fire station, and they were all, you know, doing their chimes and everything. I remember that. And then the Earl's Court, you know, going down into Queen's Road, the crowds got bigger and bigger. And see, when you got all the way down Queen's Road and you turned onto Union Street, oh my God, it took the wind from me, really. I just could not believe how many people were on the streets. It was just like incredible. It was a really amazing feeling. In fact, I remember that as well as I do, you know, the actual match. to think I'm on this bus. And as a kid, you'd be on the streets, and then you're on the open top bus. It's just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Then, of course, you added the second star with the Super Cup and the one against Hamburg, and I think you scored there as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did have it. I didn't score. I only scored 31 goals in my whole career, but I did manage to score in some important matches, which was good. But the Super Cup was, we'd lost to Hamburg a couple of years before. We'd beat Ipswich in the second round, and then we had the Hamburg, where we actually, Franz Beckenbauer was actually playing in that game. We played so well, and we only won 3-2, and then they beat us 3-1 at Hamburg. So there was a lot to try and let's go and beat this team who had beaten us in the previous couple of years beforehand. It was a routine 0-0 good defensive display in the first leg in Hamburg, and of course they've been they won the European Cup, and that obviously the Cup Winners' Cup winners, we play each other for the title, the Super Cup. But it was actually a Super Shield. It wasn't a cup in those days. It was like a plaque, Super Cup plaque. But in the return leg, full house at Pittodrie. We played pretty decent, pretty even in the first half, and then I think I scored within 2 minutes of the restart in the second half. And I mean, my form had been pretty ropey before that, but see, when I scored that goal, what a lift I got, and then we won the game. And then the second half of the season, I was flying after that. It just reinforced that you had the right to be in that team and do well, and have a regular place in Fergie's team. Because if your levels drop too low, then there was always somebody there waiting to take your place.
You would have thought on the back of 2 stars and 2 European competitions, two wins, that you might have been able to challenge the gaffer for a wage rise, but you buckled in that one as well.
No, that was before. That was in the summer.
Was it after?
Because he says, "Oh, I've got a new contract." Oh, that's good. And then when it got put down, I could see the figures, and right away I was like, I'm not sure. And he says, I says, well, I've a lot on. I'll come back and in the pre-season we can have a chat about it again. I mean, when we won the Cup Winners' Cup, I was in £100 basic. Yeah, I mean, it was low even in Aberdeen standards, I think. But so when I got offered, I think it was 230 or 240. It was a good increase. I mean, it was a double increase, but I still felt I was worth more than that, because I had all the things in my head. Just been married, I've got into this. I played for Scotland. I played every game in the Cup Winners' Cup. I was a regular in your first team. I had about 5 or 6 things all rattled off. So first day of pre-season, Simmy, come with me. I've got your contract. So I'm just going through it. Boss, I've been thinking, I've been in Scotland. And he says, just effing sign it. So I just got the pen and signed it. And that was it. I was like, oh, what have I done? And what could you do? I mean, when you look back, I've no regrets in terms of being with Aberdeen the length of period I'd won 8 winners' medals with the club. In fact, 10 if you include the 10 and 6s. So I mean, it was a brilliant period to be involved in. I've so much respect for Fergie and what he achieved and what he allowed us to be part of. He was an unbelievable manager, a great motivator. He demanded so high standards. So, as we look back, if I look back, I would have been delighted to have been in £400 a week. But I had to settle for the 230, and that's how it went. That was these times.
time's getting away from us. But what was the best Sir Alex story?
Fergie.
In the spot here, good or bad?
Oh, there's two in the book that I remember just off the top of my head. We, in fact, yeah, the first team got beat by Dundee United 4-1. I think the following week they got beat by Rangers, and everybody from the club, right, I don't want to see anybody out. Everybody's banned from going out for 2 weeks because you're a bloody disgrace. You know, all that. And that included, in fact, I was just in the fringes at the start of the season. I wasn't involved in any of that games, but I did actually come back after that. So we're actually on the Saturday before the Monday where he'd said the 2 weeks. So I'm walking down Union Street with my wife, and I don't know how he did it, but I hear toot, 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 and I'm looking, and there's Fergie and Archie going down in their car on Union Street. And I'm like, I've had it. I'm going to be fined here. And right enough, we're warming up on the Monday, and he said, guys, somebody broke the curfew. They know who they are, and they'll feel it in their pocket. And right enough, I got fined a week's wages for breaking the curfew by less than 48 hours. Incredible. That was a mild story. There's numerous others that I can't tell.
In terms of, I mean, obviously Sir Alex, I mean, he worked wonders with Aberdeen. He worked wonders at Manchester United as well. I mean, I know you're on social media. There's a big debate just now, and then Pep Guardiola, the greatest. The argument that Sir Alex is maybe second, but surely, I mean, what Sir Alex has done with like Aberdeen, the two different clubs, the European success and domestic success he's had, that probably makes him the greatest manager of all time.
I think the way Fergie develops young players, in my opinion, is far better than Pep Guardiola. I think can mould a brilliant team with superstars. But if you look at Fergie's record at St Mirren, Aberdeen and Man United, it was always built on quality players, but also homegrown talent who he nurtured and developed into a way of his thinking. And if you were good enough, you were old enough. And there's so many players. Look at St Mirren, look at Aberdeen, look at Man United. What he did there. There was so many young, talented players got their opportunity, and they supplemented the already amazing players at all these clubs.
That's great. No, Neil, I appreciate your time very much. Thank you. I wish you all the best with the book, which again is Semi-Tackling Life with Aberdeen and Fergie, with the Neil
Drysdale, who's the author.
By Pitch Publishing. It's out now, and Neil and Pitch Publishing have kindly agreed to give us a couple of signed books to give away. So what we'll do is we'll give away those to basically likes to this video across the various digital channels. So, and then from then likes and a follow to the Daily Records sports thing, then that we'll pick a couple of winners from that. And that'll be great. So Neil, thank you very much for that.
Hopefully whoever wins it will enjoy the read.
I'm sure they will. I've certainly gone through it. It's a very good story, and we've only touched we've not even scratched the surface there. We could probably be there all day with the stories, Neil. But that's great. Thank you very much for your time. As I said, I hope the book goes well. And thank you for everyone for joining us in this latest Daily Record in Conversation. For the latest breaking Scottish football news, join us at the Daily Record across all our social media channels. Until next time, thank you and all the best.